Welcome to the SPEAKPact podcast, where high-performing speakers and the producers who hire them merge to give you the insider secrets to the lucrative speaking industry. Antoniette Roze, your podcast host and celebrated speaker agent, unveils insider success strategies. Discover a nexus of thought leaders and bookers, maximizing your potential in each and every episode. Your ticket to ultimate speaking success begins right here. Catch the transformative insights waiting for you on the SPEAKPact podcast, hosted by the industry powerhouse herself, Antoniette Roze.
Welcome back to SPEAKPact. Thank you for joining us again today. It's been a jam-packed day of some pretty incredible content, and you will be glad that you came to this interview. It is going to be very valuable as you learn from 5-time best-selling author, keynote speaker, Erik Qualman, who has spoken in 55 different companies to over 50 million people. And he is a #1 best-selling author who is deemed the second best author in the world. So he'll talk a little bit about that. Welcome to the stage, Erik.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I just got back from traveling, so we're closing in on 60 countries now, so it should be fun.
Wowza. Yeah, just that count keeps going up. So tell me a little bit about Erik like when nobody knew who you were and you decided you had a message, you wanted to get your voice out there. What first of all triggered in your head and made you feel like, this might be a good thing?
No, it's a good question. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and then I went to one of my first internships was actually at Cadillac. Like a lot of folks up in Detroit, you work for the automotive industry, but they needed help with, at the time, basically Cadillac.com. It's brand new. So I fell into it backwards, digital space. I was at Yahoo back in the late 90s, and then I was head of marketing at Travelzoo. And when I was there, we were spending a lot of money on search, more than most. I mean, we'd taken the company from private to public. So a lot of people wanted to hear, why are we spending 100% of our budget on search? But then I saw a thing called MySpace, and I go, wait, this is kind of the future. A lot of people think this is just for teenagers. And so I was telling people, hey, this is actually going to be massive for businesses and also governments and politics. Just everything's going to change the way we communicate when it comes to social media. And I was kind of getting frustrated because people couldn't see it. And then I finally said, wait, you turned that frustration to fascination. I go, wait, they can't see it. At first you're like, how can you not see this? Then it's like, wait, they can't see it. And so almost out of a little bit of frustration, just wrote the book Socialnomics to show people, hey, this is coming. This is going to be big. So it was the right place, right time. I never thought I'd do this for a living. I've now written 6 books. As you mentioned, I'm closing down 60 countries and reach so many people speaking. Never in my wildest dreams would I think this would be what I do day to day. But I love it. So it's been great. We're going on close to 15 years now doing this. It's kind of crazy to think about some of the stuff in the books come to fruition, Socialnomics, and still half of it hasn't. So sometimes things are slow till they're fast. Everything will come to light, I think, in that book. But some things are taking longer than others.
Yeah, sometimes things are slow until they're fast. Love that. And frustration to fascination. Fabulous. So I love your journey because it relates so well to this audience. Most of this audience are very high achievers, a lot in the corporate space, some outside the corporate space, but very public or high achieving spaces who now want to shift into getting their voice out there, either as a replacement for their business model, in addition to their business model, for whatever reason, right? And they really have no idea what the first steps would be. If you were Erik today speaking to Erik however many years ago, what are some things that you would tell yourself, kind of priming yourself for this journey, maybe to avoid some hard knocks along the way?
Yeah, I'll start with first principles and very simple stuff. It's simple is the hardest to do, though, because people come up to me, hey, I want to write a book. What do I need to do? I'm like, you got to write. Are you writing? Are you writing every day? No, because I got to go. I don't think I'm ready to write the whole book yet. Well, that's step one, start writing. A lot of people go, I want to speak. I want to do what you do. Like, how do I do that? I'm like, are you speaking anywhere? No. Well, get out there and speak. speak for free. Get out there and figure out what your voice is, figure out what resonates with the audience, what topics can you sort of quote unquote own. So that's always the first principle is people will go, I want to do X, Y, Z. So I want to write a book. I want to write a bestseller. It's like, well, then write. And so it seems so simple, but it's not easy because it's hard to write each and every day. And so it's try to find your patterns and just stick with it and go for it. So that's the biggest advice I give. And just high achievers, if you're a high achiever, sometimes when you're shifting gears into a different domain, you know you need to do that, but something's holding you back. You're like, well, I might fail if I actually take that step and go out there and start speaking. But it's really, you're never going to be 100% ready. So just get out there, start figuring out where your holes are, where your strengths are, and then go from there.
I love that you said that. We're singing the same song. Yeah. Every time you get out there and talk, you're collecting data. If you're doing it right? Mm-hmm. You're collecting data about yourself, about your audience, about what's resonating, what's not resonating. Let's talk a little bit about the biggie right now, right? That's at top of mind for everybody. Should everybody suddenly put the whole world of AI into their talk? Let's talk a little bit about what should we be doing around AI as emerging voices?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I speak on digital leadership, so I've been going on 15 years. And so there's always some new item out there, soup du jour. It could have been, you go from portals to search, you go from search to social, you go from social to blockchain. And so you go down the list. Metaverse was big, like 4 years ago. Metaverse, change everything to metaverse. So what we always do is just encapsulate it. Digital leadership's the big umbrella. And underneath that, you have items like artificial intelligence, like social media that go in there. And so you got to figure out the signal and the noise. So in my mind, AI's overhyped short term, but underhyped long term. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what's the timing? And I don't know. Like if I knew the timing, I'd be the richest person in the world on any of these things. But you can see that
coming to you to know who to bet on.
yeah, who to bet on, or like search is an easier example to look at. So us heavy in the search space, and I knew search was going to be big, like long term, but I didn't know who's going to win. Was it Dogpile? Was it Lycos? Was it Excite? Was it Ask Jeeves? Was it Yahoo? Was it Google? It turns out Google was the eventual winner. And so AI is going to be huge. Like it's only going to get bigger. I just don't know the timing. Right now, it's kind of you're going to see a crash here soon with a lot of these companies that just put AI on their label. Or speaking of the speaking business, should you shift into just talking about AI? You can do that. It's a short-term win. But first of all, is it your thing? Is it in your DNA? So I know speakers that are always chasing the latest and greatest in the win, but it's not going to be successful for them because it's really, look at the top speakers. What is Brene Brown on? She owns shame, right? Shame, vulnerability, and then she morphs into leadership a little bit. Shame, vulnerability, leadership. Simon Sinek, why? Sean Acker, happiness. And so that stands the test of time. They'll adjust with shifts in the world. So they'll talk about how AI might impact your why a little bit, or your day-to-day as a leader at the office. That's speaking of Simon. But it's really about understanding what at your core are you good? Where's your kind of major strength? And so adjust accordingly. Like, what do? I embed AI because everyone wants to hear about it. I don't know how long they want to hear about it, but right now it's white hot. So it's part of my talk. It's probably 35% of my talk. But when people say you should just shift your talk to just be artificial intelligence, I'm like, absolutely not. It's just part of all your digital leadership. It's one piece of the puzzle.
Oh, that is a brilliant answer. And I haven't heard it put that way. Do you have where can speakers specifically go and maybe dive a little bit deeper into that? Do you have one of your 6-ish books on that topic?
The topic of your strength, the topic of AI, or?
Of the utilization of AI.
Yeah, so I don't have AI in the books because it's the last book I wrote is the Focus Project, which wasn't digital specific. It has digital components, but it's primarily how to focus on big versus busy. But by all means, if you go to equalman.com or at socialnomics.net, it's another property we own, But if you go to eagleman.com, you'll see my opinion on AI. You'll see videos on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to double click on it more, then there's more in-depth items there. And you'll see me speaking on stage about it as well on YouTube.
Okay, fabulous. And you do talk about focusing on big versus busy. I think that this is a weakness of my own. I tend to be honestly curious, honestly want to know everything. And so then I want to put my fingers right in everything, which can get overwhelming. How do you focus on the big versus the busy?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I fail at it miserably all the time. And so that's the first thing is that's why I wrote the book, The Focus Project and it was a project. I thought it was going to take me a year. It wound up taking 2 years because that's how hard focus is, because I kept having false starts. And so what had happened is that the business was doing well, but I was getting pulled in thousands of directions. And so every night I felt like my hair was on fire. I was getting exhausted from a health perspective. And I go, what is going on? What would it look like? I would kind of just dream about what would it look like if this month all I did was focus on organizing the house? Or what would it look like if I focused just on sales outreach, just to get us booked more on stage? Like I just had the team and myself. That's all we focused on. And so I kept coming back to that. And then the more I talked to people, so I was doing an event at this conference that had all the big, if you ever do Halloween candy, you'll know everyone in the room. Like they're like from streets called Hershey. You know, there's people with the last name Mars. And so I'm in that cocktail reception and I was like, wow, these are the owners of these companies that have been around for 160 years. So let me just ask questions and listen. I say, like, why has your family been so successful over centuries? And they're like, focus. And I go, and then what's the biggest challenge you're going to face the next 12 months? And they're like, remaining focused. So here we have a coin, two different sides. And I go, I'm wrestling with that as well. And the more I talk to people, like my daughter's principal, I'm like, you're superintendent, like you're successful. They're like, I just got to maintain focus, but it's the hardest thing I do each and every day. So I go, all right, I'm not the only one wrestling with this. So let's unpack it. It's not anything new. It's been going on for before Jesus was born. Let's go back and figure out what have they said over time, whether it's the Stoics, whether it's Walden. What have they been saying? What works and what doesn't work? So I was kind of the guinea pig. And so that's what turned into the book, was the project. But I had 5 false starts because the first month I go, all right, I'm going to focus on one thing a month, just carve out a half hour of my time for this thing. And I wanted to do sales, because if I didn't do sales well, then I wouldn't have the luxury of doing this project. And so I go, okay, half hour a day. Literally the first month was 18 minutes for the whole month. It wasn't like 18 minutes per day. It was 18 minutes for the whole month, because kept going back to old habits. And so that's what the book's all about. I finally, on the 5th try, got it. And I still wrestle with it today, but it's got that institutional research and also the street science, me kind of testing what works and what doesn't work. So it's a really fun project, and it's really resonated with a lot of people across the country. In fact, I'm getting a book club. I'm having a Q&A and book club right after this.
That's fabulous. Yeah. So you have a through line, and I love it. So we started off talking about how simple is not easy, how to just do the thing, right? You say you want the thing, then do the thing that's going to get you the thing, right? Whether it's writing a book, getting on more stages, whatever it might be, and do it consistently. It doesn't have to be a big part of every day, but if you just do it a little bit, kind of the tortoise and the hare story, right? If you just do it a little bit every single day, and then focus on focusing. I've written it down. I'm going to practice it for the next 30 days and just see how far I get with that. That's really, really brilliant. Thank you for that, Erik.
No, you're welcome.
So what are some other tips that you might be able to give, especially emerging voices, on what kinds, let's shift a little bit to relationships. How important are relationships? And how do you surround yourself with those people you can learn from, you can collaborate with, all the good things?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we found helpful, and this is from a couple of my books, but it's really salient in What Happens in Vegas Stays on YouTube. But relationships are really based around questions. So the better questions you ask, the better relationships. But what your audience should try to do, and I'm reminding myself as well, because I don't do it every day. And when I say what I'm about to say, like, how can you not do that every day? It's 4 minutes. Do it better than than I have in the past, but it's really what I call posting it forward. So think about a selfie and doing the exact opposite. Think about an unselfie mentality. And so you're shining the light on somebody else. So for 4 minutes a day, what you do is, let's say you love LinkedIn. You go on LinkedIn and you go and up someone, you click on the button that said, this person's really good at accounting, or this person's really good at sales. And that doesn't take you very long. So again, you have 4 minutes. You've hit a couple people doing that. Hopefully you're voting for something, you're recommending them for something, the skill set they actually do have on LinkedIn. But you go and do that. Or it might be you love email still. So then you see an article that you enjoyed reading, and that article was about the election. And you know your two friends are totally into politics and they'll enjoy this article. So you forward that to them. Or maybe it's a prospect. It doesn't matter. It could be one of your clients. And so what you're doing is you remind, or it could be the favorite tools, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and you go out there and say, hey, you should follow these 3 people in the community because they're doing great things around XYZ. So what you're doing is you're reminding that person, when time, distance, and safety are an issue, when I can't have that coffee with you and I can't have that lunch with you, that our relationship matters. And again, you need to do this 4 minutes a day. Post it forward is what I call it, posting it forward. And you do that, it's like compound interest, right? What's the most powerful thing in the world? Compound interest. So this is compound interest with relationships. You stack this 4 minutes day after day after day, shining the light on other people and being genuine about it. And then you're going to see the returns come in year after year. Again, what I just said, it sounds very simple, but I wrestle with getting those 4 minutes a day as well. So it's just trying to stay the course as much as possible, giving yourself some grace when you don't do it, and just getting back on it.
I am going to take this challenge. We all have those people in our lives, right? Either friends or acquaintances or business relationships where we really only hear from them. We like them. Mm-hmm. We really only hear from them when they need something.
Yeah. Yep.
And so why not keep that relationship fresh by just those little gestures? There is one thing I feel like we do pretty good. And anytime there's a shout out on the SpeakPact show about somebody, I make sure that they know it. We put it in the comments, we put it in the show notes. Hey, somebody gave you a shout out in this particular episode. And I just did it just because, but it really kind of created that law of reciprocity that I feel like you're talking about, just at least that feeling of camaraderie and connection. So thank you for that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's all about relationships. Life's too short, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So how did you, we learned how you set out on this journey. Do you really feel like it was dumb luck or a bit of that with some intentional, obviously you put in your elbow grease, mm-hmm. So that's a given, but something else must have happened, Erik, for you to become the name that you are and the sought out speaker, kind of that person, that go-to person in your space. Were there any other keys that you feel like you put into place?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's like luck's where preparation meets opportunity. And so I was in the digital space for many years on the business side, which sometimes separates you because I was actually a doer. I was in there and it rose up to executive level. So I know how companies function, especially at all tiers, because I was at all tiers in my career. So that's a huge benefit when you're on stage, especially if you're at a Fortune 500, Fortune 5,000, Fortune 2,000 audience. You know what they're wrestling with at a high level day to day. So that helps a lot. Now, I never thought I'd be a speaker. You can probably hear it sometimes when I'm speaking interpersonal communication. I have a tendency to mumble, so much so that my friends would kind of, in a good-natured way, make fun of me in high school and also in college, especially the basketball team in college. And so I took in grad school Toastmasters. And so I started taking Toastmasters and I wound up being the president of that club at Toastmasters just so that I could speak a little better with my friends, not knowing that at some point in time, this would actually be my career. So it's funny looking back that sometimes you do stuff that later on is a huge benefit to what you need to do. And also when I was at Travelzoo, it happens that the founders of Travelzoo were born in Germany, and the founder's a genius. But I wouldn't say his strength is interacting with people at a public level. So when we went on road shows, whether I was with Wall Street or with the press, all of a sudden it was baptism by fire for me that I had to be kind of the right-hand person there to kind of navigate the waters from a speaking perspective. And then so that was training that was difficult at the time. But then when I wrote the book and the publisher said, we need you to go to this thing called Book Expo, which I had no idea what it was. It's where they launch books. It's in New York. And I'm speaking a topic that really no one knows what it is, I thought, socialnomics. And it was funny because I had my mom, we were doing a mom's weekend. Two of my best friends had decided, let's take our moms to some Broadway shows. And it happened to correspond with that weekend. So I'm like, great, yeah, I can go on stage and speak about the book. I'm already going to be in New York and my mom will be there. So it's kind of fun to show up, go down in the basement to give a talk. And all of a sudden I show up and there's like 1,500 people there. I'm like, whoa, people want to know about this thing called socialnomics. And so it was a great moment for my mom because she's a huge Julie Andrews fan. And I go to the booth because the publisher had a booth. They're like, all right, you're going to go speak. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought there'd be like 5 people here to talk to because I thought I was speaking on this nerdy technology thing. And then they're like, you're going to go to this book signing. I'm like, this is going to be embarrassing. But all of a sudden we're walking up to the book signing. There's this huge line. And I think the lines for my mom's hero, Julie Andrews, that's her favorite performer of all time, is right next to my booth.
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, she's great. And she's next to my booth, and I'm like walking up and I start looking in the line, and everyone has the socialnomics book. I'm like, wait, that's our line. So it was a pretty cool moment to be there for my mom and myself. Just didn't know this world we're stepping into. And so some of it was that prep, and then the launches. And so how do you maintain it for 15 years? Because it's a really difficult business once you're in it to stay relevant. So the key to success in my mind is making sure you're always listening to the audience. And so we've got a pretty good feedback loop. It takes us hours after I present to answer every email that comes in. And we've got a treed system that it starts, some of them, my team helps at the beginning, but then I answer every email that's secondary after that. So it gives me a pulse of what's working, what's not, what's top of mind for the audience. And so then that allows me, I've never given a perfect talk, so it allows me to adjust not only my talk, but also see what's down the road. Wow, 90% of people are wrestling with this across all industries in which I'm speaking for. And so that's a big key to the success. And why doesn't everyone do it? It takes a lot of time.
I was going to say, that is pretty impressive. I would have never thought it was actually you answering those second level emails, but that's brilliant in really staying in touch, because it's easy when you get down to the road to forget some of those early questions and those early struggles, right? And be able to speak relevantly, because the struggles today are not the struggles 10 years ago. It's a different world. Every single day, right? We cycle into a different world, and you're living in your world, and just that's brilliant. But a commitment, especially I'm sure with the volume of emails that you probably get.
Yeah. And then about 8 years ago too, is that I never wanted to talk about myself on stage. And then they kept asking me why I was wearing these green glasses. The green glasses is a whole nother story. It's about stepping into discomfort. I won't go the long version of it, but my name's Erik Qualman, so it forms Equal Man. And then there's different moments in time to where I'd written, they were doing a magazine article. They wanted to take a picture and said, hey, do you mind wearing some Clark Kent like Superman glasses because you have this name Equal Man? And I go, sure, we could do that. We have fun. They go, well, it's our St. Patty's edition. Do you mind if they're green? I go, let's do it. They bring them out. They're super bright green, alien green. I go, whoa, those are bright. And then I flew to Kenya a couple days later to give a talk, and the host picks me up, and we're going to a rescue shelter to adopt a baby cheetah, not to take home, that just to support the local area. And the host goes, we just filmed Usain Bolt 2 days ago. The Olympic sprinter was here, and he adopted from the same litter you're adopting from. We filmed him. Love to film you. We just want to put this video together, raise awareness for the shelter. I'm like, fantastic. And then she pauses and looks at me and goes, but obviously when we're filming, we want to make sure you're wearing your green glasses. And I go, I don't walk around the world wearing bright green glasses. I wouldn't want people looking at me all the time. And she goes, no, in Kenya, that's what everyone thinks you're going to look like on stage tomorrow. So what at that moment in time, I realized, wait, this isn't happening to me, this name Equal Man, it's happening for me. So am I going to have the guts to kind of step into that discomfort, knowing full well, and it happened, some people didn't book us because they go, well, we're talking about serious stuff here. This is a business. This is 8 years ago. A lot of people have gotten a lot more relaxed in the last 8 years. But 8 years ago, businesses are like, no, we want a speaker that's going to drive return on investment. When I'm only speaking specifically about how it's digital is going to drive return on investment. We don't want a person with green glasses. This is a business environment. But then other people said, oh, we love it. It's so much different. And then all of a sudden now our whole team's been so great. We've gotten the business of actually, because they started, how do we get those glasses? We're like, oh, you can probably go to them on Amazon. Then the more and more said, no, we need like thousands of them. So now we've morphed into having our own business of producing green glasses so that when they want them at the conference and they put them on the chairs, it's stuff you never would expect. But once you step into your story, once you kind of say, who cares? Kind of the hell with it. I'm stepping into the discomfort. I'm going to own my story. Then all this stuff opens up. And it's not easy to do because it is uncomfortable. And like I said, we did not get booked for a couple deals because they're like, oh, that's kind of weird that he's got these green glasses and this is a business event.
That is so much fun. Okay, so step into your own distinction. And usually it's the thing that we think we need to hide or push aside, right? Generally. Yep. That is somehow what we were born with, or somehow through our experiences became something distinct about ourselves. So step into that, right? I love that you said that, and embrace it. And not that you're trying to be gimmicky at all. When I see green glasses now, who am I going to think of? Yep. Right? It's just... Nike does it, with the swish. We all do it. And that's just part of the brand of Erik Qualman. So absolutely love that. Okay. So
it has had some fun moments because yesterday I went to our gym at Gold's Gym. I walk in and this guy goes, hey, you're Equal Man. And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, you spoke at Gold's 5 years ago. And I remember the glasses. I'm like, and then, so there's some days when I don't feel like wearing them, but it's moments like that I wear them because then you have that connection. It's easier for people to recognize you. And then you can talk. And he goes, yeah, I just took over. I'm now the new manager of this gym, but I remember you came in, talked to our whole organization. And so it's great to connect with them at that level.
Love it. Okay. So I know by this time, if somebody hasn't heard of you, they're going to want to know where do we find you? You're very easy to find. Do you have a preferred place you would like people to start with to kind of step into your journey with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to find. It's equalman.com is probably the easiest place to start, but all of our social handles are easy to find. They're all Equal Man. Even my email address is equalman@equalman.com if you want to send me an email. Very easy to reach.
So equal is in the equal sign.
Yes.
Man.
Yep.
You, man.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Super, super easy. Okay. So as we start wrapping up, I think you've already done this all the way through, but in case there's something we've missed along the way, this of course is SpeakPact. And together, you and me, Erik, just by you being on this show, I've created a pact with you to make the biggest impact that we can in our respective spaces. Right. And now let's post that forward, as you would say, and give that challenge to the SpeakPact audience. Is there one more sort of tactical thing? I love your 4-minute exercise. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to write that down. I'll give you all the credit, but I think that's really, really brilliant. Is there one more sort of tactical thing that just the average of us could do that would really kind of move the dial in that impact piece?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of you out there, you're like you mentioned, you're trying to step into your personal brand, and you always got to start with the first principle around your personal brand. And so it's a great exercise. And so I'm going to ask this question. If you feel like it, you can send me an email at equalman@equalman.com, spell it out, EQUALMAN. But the question I have is, if someone were to Google your name, or now if you go to these, what I call answer engines, if you go to a ChatGPT, if you go to a Perplexity, Claude, if someone were to type your name in that search field, what is the one word you want to come back? What is that one word you want to come back? 5 minutes from now? 5 weeks? 5 years, 50 years, 500 years, 5,000 years, because that's really the first principle that you can always go to, that Rosetta Stone for your compass, for your personal brand compass. And so that's what I want all of you to think about, is what would that one word be?
Ooh, yes. We talk in terms of legacy, but that feels so kind of, the legacy our grandfather left us. Like, it just feels a little bit different than what you said. And that is basically, what's the mark, right? What's that indelible mark that you're going to leave behind that will make a difference generations after you? I love
Exactly.
that. One more quick question before we go. I know you have a really hard stop, but Kali, I could spend 3 hours with you easily. You started off not thinking you were going to talk. You started off as a rambler, right? Took Toastmasters, which is a fabulous organization for anybody at any stage. I think it's a really fabulous organization. And then got that first, second speaking engagement, fell into your distinction, which is amazing. But and then you stayed relevant. But how did you make that one engagement more engagements? Is there any sort of strategy behind, you're going to put your time and effort into something, kind of multiplying that opportunity?
I mean, it's taking the time to stay when you can. Sometimes my flight doesn't allow for it, but it's really making sure you're taking the time. If you're at a conference that has multiple companies in it, so let's say you're speaking at an association. If you're speaking at an association that has multiple companies in that room, depending on the size room, but on average, you're going to have 3 potential other engagements in that room.
Yeah.
And it could be, if you stayed that extra 20 minutes to talk one-on-one in the hallway, that all of a sudden that business card exchange or that email exchange or that mobile exchange happens. Because the person might go, that person's a great speaker, we need to have them. Then all of a sudden, half hour later, they're back in the weeds of what they have to do, and they completely forget it. So it's really about, when you can, because it's not always possible. Sometimes you run off the stage to get to your flight. But it's, can you stay, or can you get there early? Can you walk around ahead of time and get some super fans in the room? So at that breakfast, that's probably not a great meal. So you might eat before you even go to that breakfast, but you walk into that breakfast and just sit down. And if you don't have sometimes I don't wear the glasses to that breakfast just so I can talk to people and they don't know I'm the speaker. And so just like, what's top of mind for them? And then, how are you doing? Ask a lot of questions. Then all of a sudden you got on the stage like, wait, that's the guy we had just talked to at breakfast. But you'll get a better pulse, but more, you're also getting fans ahead of time. And then sometimes you might have talked to the person that's that potential engagement in the room before you even got on stage.
Okay, you heard it, right? Erik Qualman, you are the man. I am so thrilled that you're with us today. Equal man. Guests, SpeakPacters who have stuck with us, post it forward. There's some gold here that can change people's lives. So put into action Erik's fabulous exercise of just posting it forward. Share this episode, because there will be some people who will thank you for it. And speaking of thanks, thank you, Erik, for spending your number one unrenewable resource time with us. So I so appreciate all of your just generosity and everything that you shared with us.
No, it's an honor to be here with you and your audience. Thank you so much.
All right. And for the SpeakPact audience, ciao for now.
Thank you for listening to the SpeakPact podcast. To become a recommended speaker of Antoniette's WPC speaker agency, or you are a host or planner looking for a dynamic expert in optimized performance, Antoniette would like to personally meet with you. Secure a time with her at speakerbooker.com. Again, that is speakerbooker.com. It all begins with a vision, a voice, and a pact to impact. Join the SpeakPact movement by joining our new private Facebook group at the link in our show notes. Find us on nearly every social media platform at One Antoniette. That's number 1, ANTONIETTE, or simply #SpeakPact.